Hey everyone, this is Zephyr, and welcome to the Bailiwiki channel, where we teach everyday DMs how to create truly amazing experiences for their players by combining art and technology. If you're a DM who likes to wow your players and you're using platforms like Dungeon Draft and Foundry Virtual Tabletop, then you're in the right place. Today, we're going through one of my favorite modules for adding a lot of style to your combat encounters without a lot of investment, and that is Automated Animations by Otagon. Automated Animations requires Sequencer by Wasp, JB2A's module, either the free or the Patreon version, and SocketLib in order to function. Automated Animations makes using sequencer-powered effects quick and easy for those of us who are less macro-inclined. To see how Automated Animations works, let's first go into the module settings. If we go into Configure Settings, for Automated Animations, there is a launch menu icon, and that'll bring up this whole system here that has a bunch of auto recognition. So as you can see up at the top, this is our automatic recognition menu. These are all of the global pre-recognition pieces. These are all completely configured right out of the box. Right now I'm using the 5e system, however, there are several systems supported, so check out the Foundry VTT page for automated animations, linked in the description, to check the full list of supported systems. These come in a variety of auto recognition pieces that make it really easy to add a lot of style and flair to your game without having to do any additional setup. If you are looking to change things or add additional effects, this is where you go. You can see we're divided into several different categories. Melee is for, well, melee attacks, such as daggers or flurry of blows, etc. Range covers not only ranged weapons, such as bows and crossbows, but also spells, such as Disintegrate and Eldritch Blast. On-token are for on-token effects, such as cure wounds, etc. So these are effects that are going to be centered on a token rather than being a projectile. Templates, like it says on the tin, are for abilities that use templates for spells. Call Lightning and Fog Cloud are pre-configured. Cone of Cold is one that we added later on, and I'll walk you through that process here as well. Auras are things that will persist and float around the character. Note that for these you'll have to use the sequencer menu in order to remove them once you fire them, or add some other form of automation. Presets are slightly more complex features. The two pre-configured examples in 5e are Misty Step, which has a special teleportation behavior, and Fireball, which has a projectile to a template rather than just spawning the template or just shooting the projectile. And finally, active effects are things that are assigned based upon conditions. For example, there's the Frightened condition, so whenever someone is under the Frightened condition, they'll have an additional automated animation applied to them. Now that we've gone through these major templates, let's take a look at what makes all of these tick. First, you'll notice that all of these are named for different pieces, and how Automated Animations applies its special effects is basically searching for the names listed here and cross-referencing them with the features or abilities that you are using in your game. So this dagger will apply to everything that has dagger in the name. So if you have a dagger +1, it's still going to use these same animations. You'll notice though that we have both sword and greatsword. This is smart enough to use the most precise name possible. So even though an item that is a greatsword would recognize both sword and greatsword, because greatsword is more specific, it takes preference. If you want to add any kind of special exceptions, you can use the advanced menu by clicking these triple dots. You can have things such as forcing exact matches, excluding specific search words, or excluding different properties. This is a little bit more advanced, but just so that you know, it is there for you if you want to do any special customization on your global settings. Now, as to what makes an animation, we can see there's a whole lot of different fields here. The first option is going to be incredibly helpful to you, and it is the preview option. And this is going to show you all of the different animations. Notice that we have primary here, and if you look, this is the primary animation box. We have ticks for adding source animations, secondary animations, and target animations. So all of those will appear in the preview. For example, if we just turn on a source animation, we can see that the source is shown here as well. So it's a really easy way to check out your effects without having to actually fire the ability. The 3D Canvas tab toggles into the 3D mode, and these are pre-configured for use with 3D Canvas if you are using that module from Ripper. You can also make additional customizations if you so desire. Sound only turns off all of the other visual elements of the animations and allows you to have it just play a sound. And finally, the add macro allows you to add a macro whenever you are using this animation. You can select it to be concurrent with the animation, have the animations apply after the macro, only running the macro, or waiting for the animation to finish before firing the macro. And that's just a simple toggle. When it comes to all of the animation settings, we first have the type. So here we have a weapon type. You can also make it generic or creature attack. And then we go through and select the different animations. I'm using JB2A's premium module, so I have a few more options than you might see on the free version, but rest assured that all of these original settings have options for you. Additionally, variants and colors that you can select, and if you want to use a custom animation, you simply click that radio button, and you can either point to a direct file, or you can use this icon to go through the sequencer database previewer. This is particularly great if you have other sequencer-enabled modules that have extra animations that you can use. And you can simply untick that to close it. Then we have all sorts of options available for our individual animations. Elevation is not elevation in the sense of levels or wall height or a token's height on the map, but rather a visual representation of the elevation. An elevation of 0 is going to put the animation below the token, whereas 1000 is going to put it over it. You can also click the absolute so that it will be in that position regardless of where the token is, as opposed to being relative to the token. Repeat, as the name might imply, is how many times this animation is going to repeat. Delay is how long to wait in between. You have the effect opacity that you can scale from 0 to 1, 1 being fully opaque. Z-index is how the animation stacks up in relation to other animations. For example, you probably want to have your projectile going above your source animation if you have some kind of summoning circle below the casting character. Scale is in grid units how large this particular animation is going to be. And it has a default of 1, but you can increase that. And playback rate, you can also think of it as the speed. A higher playback rate is going to make the animation play more quickly, and a slower one is going to have it move more slowly. Note that if you're using lower values here, it may make the animation look a little choppy or framey. Then we have the delay or wait, and this is a toggle between the two. Delay basically means from the time you finish the roll, how long is it going to wait to actually play the animation. Wait is forcing things to wait until previous animations are done. So for example, if we wait on the primary animation, it's going to make sure that everything else has finished firing before this one also fires. So it's a way that you can set things up so that the source animation plays and then the primary animation, or you can have things happen sequentially rather than delaying them individually. If you ever are confused about any of the options we're going through, there is this handy quick reference guide. It's going to give you some general information on all of these, and it's basically recapping what we're talking about here. And you can toggle through all of the different pieces here. Next up, we've got a color tint, and this is exactly what it says on the tin. You can adjust the contrast and saturation and pick whatever color you would like. Note that this is going to apply over the entire animation, so it works best on animations that are a white color or are neutral, and is particularly helpful for things that don't have multiple tones to it. That's when it tends to look the best. Sound allows you to add a sound to the particular animation that you're playing, so this is helpful if you want to add some extra pizzazz. Range switch is a particularly interesting option here. And basically what this is doing is if something matches this dagger tag, it's going to go ahead and check, are you in melee range? If so, play the melee animation. And if you are at range, play the ranged animation. And these can be customized or they can be automatic. The dagger is kind of baked in, and so it's a slightly different one. And to demonstrate that, we can go back to our assassin here. And we'd see that if the assassin comes up to Eustace the Undying and uses his standard dagger attack, we have this thrust animation. But if he steps back and is further away and throws his dagger, it is going to be this throwing animation. And that is handled automatically with automated animations. And for each of these, you can add additional secondary and target animations. Source animations are going to apply to the originator of the effect, so whatever your selected token is. Secondary animations are going to be similar to those projectiles, but you can specify anything that you want. And then finally, target animations are going to be applied to your target specifically. As we can see, there's a lot of different options here. And if we go through range, there are several as well. So that is the basic anatomy of creating anything with automated animations. Now, when it comes to actually applying this, you can create your own effect by hitting the plus button. And you can also, if you have multiple of these open, you can close things and you can choose how you want to sort. And if you want to delete everything, there's the metadata option if you want to get some more information for referencing with macros, etc. But that's a little bit beyond the scope of this video. You can also duplicate these if you want to make similar effects. And the menu manager lets you import, export, and merge different pieces. If for some reason you have deleted all of these effects or you've made a lot of changes and you no longer like them, you can restore the default menu. And you can also export your menus to a JSON file or overwrite them by importing a new menu as a JSON file. In addition to this global customization, which is already very powerful, we can make individual customizations. For example, this Lich has a firebolt, and this mage also has a firebolt. You'll notice that this mage has a sound effect and a different color than the Lich. So for you or your players to customize a individual instance of a automated animation, you simply open up the feature and click on this AA tag up at the top. And we can see up here there is the global match found. And that is saying that there is a global match defined in our settings, which we can also open right here. And we can see there is the firebolt, and so that is what has been found. And it's already configuring all of this. We can turn off this customize item, and then we're going to default to the global setting here. We'll have to submit first. But now when we fire, it's back to that original version of the firebolt. And if we customize the item, even though we closed it, it's still got all of the information stored on it. And so this will be completely independent. Now, if you want to customize an individual animation, there's a couple ways you can do that. So I'll do that on the Lich here to create a similar effect with the firebolt. Opening up the automated animations menu, once again we've got our global match found. You'll notice that if we select customize item, this is defaulted to a melee, and so we could build this with the stock settings and go in and individually change this to range and make it a spell, and then select firebolt, etc. Additionally, we can use this copy from autorec, and that's going to copy what the global match setting is. So it's going to ask us to confirm. And we'll see that switched over to firebolt and the color orange. And so that's copied everything. So if you already have a global recommendation that you like, but you want to make some slight tweaks to it, this is the best way to go about it. So for here, maybe we want the Lich to have some kind of eruption below him. We can preview that. I'm not completely sure I like that as much. So I'm also going to look at a few different options here. So we can make that red. And I want this to appear below the token. So I'm changing the elevation to 0. And we'll notice that with this magic sign type, which is being played on the Lich token itself, that we now have the scale and radius version. Scale is based off of the size of the token. So a scale of 1 is going to make this effect equal to the token. Radius is the radius of the effect in grid units, and we can also add the token width, which applies mostly with someone like Eustace here. We can also anchor, and the 0.5 kind of makes it centered. Otherwise, you can make it appear up towards the top left or the bottom right. Fade in and fade out are when it's going to come in and out. We can also determine whether we are making it persistent. Wait means that the subsequent effects are going to wait until this source animation is done before playing. So if we switch that to a delay, then they're going to play concurrently. And that's all looking pretty good. So if I submit this and we fire the firebolt, we should see an animation around the Lich as he fires the firebolt. We can make additional tweaks if we so choose, like we might want to increase the playback rate or tweak some of these fade in and fade outs. But that's the gist of how you can customize for an individual person's spells or attacks. I find this particularly cool if you have multiple warlocks, or if your party has a warlock while you come against other enemy warlocks. Then you can flavor Eldritch Blast or something similar with a unique color or additional effects to indicate the source of the caster's magic, maybe representative of their patron, or if we're talking another spell, then maybe it's more how they manifest their magic. We also don't have to all use the exact same animation. We could use something similar to a guiding bolt rather than a fire bolt here. And that's going to give us another feel to these spells. So it's a really powerful way to not only add these really flashy bits that just add general punch, but also add a lot of customization and personalization to your characters. For the mage, I'm going to demonstrate the Cone of Cold that we already showed off earlier. And this is playing an effect and also erasing the template. And that's something that you can do easily with automated animations. So let's walk through a slightly more advanced version here. So we've opened up our Cone of Cold. If we open up automated animations, I've cleared out the global rec that I created earlier, and now we're able to customize this item. If we customize it, we have a lot of different options. I'm going to go with templates. An honorable mention here is using the preset where we can have a projectile to the template, but I don't find that as fitting for Cone of Cold since it's supposed to originate from the caster as opposed to being in an area detached from the caster. So we're going to go to templates, and we can select a lot of different options here. We want to set the type here to match the template of the particular spell. So Cone of Cold is a cone, and there's a few different options here. For example, there is the breath weapon, which I think does look very cool having that inhale exhale, and that's a great thing to keep in mind. But obviously there are several options, and Cone of Cold being a very iconic spell, there's a lot of pieces already predefined here. So we've got a great Cone of Cold already ready to go. So if I submit, and then I can test that. You'll see that plays really nicely. but it's kind of coming underneath this template, and I don't necessarily like having this template here, because with Cone of Cold in particular, you don't really need to know where that template was after the fact, because the targeting will be done immediately. Well, at least in my case, because I'm using MIDI QOL. So I'm just going to clear that out. So then there are some additional options we've got here. For example, we have this remove template option, and that allows us to basically delete the measured template as soon as the animation plays. Masking is going to affect how the animation is played in relation to the template. So if you have a template that is smaller than the animation will not actually extend beyond that template, which is nice if you're trying to use an animation for what might not be its original intention. And then we can take a look at all of our other settings. There is the above templates setting, but I found with for whatever reason, my combination of modules, it doesn't want to pop over the top of templates all the time, or these animations are transparent enough that they still don't look quite as clean being above a template that is that purple color. But that is completely your personal preference, and depending upon the animation, you might find that it still looks really good. And again, we can take a look at all of the different settings we want. I'm pretty happy with this. Just to make it a little bit more interesting, we'll go ahead and add something like, let's see. Go ahead and add a few other little options. Okay. All right, now let's test our new Cone of Cold. Okay, so a couple tweaks we want to make. And we can just keep experimenting with this until we find an effect that we like. Excellent. Once you're happy with everything, then it's really easy to create this global match so that once I've been experimenting with this and I found a Cone of Cold that I'm really happy with, I can go ahead and copy this to the auto recommendation. And it's going to have a label, and you could even change this to be just cone if you so desired, and it would still apply for Cone of Cold, but also if there's another spell you've added to your campaign that has cone in the title, it will match there. So we can go ahead and hit submit. And you'll notice that it does not say global match found just yet. We can open up the global recognition menu from right there and check it. Then if we close this and reopen, we'll see that now there is that global recognition. And we can even turn off customize. Make sure we submit. And we have all of our great effects already in place. That's going to conclude our first part of the automated animations tutorial. If you want to see all of the things that automated animations can do in 3D in Foundry, stay tuned for part 2. In the comments, let me know what you're going to be automating with beautiful animations using this module, and let me know what you'd like to see next. Once again, this has been Zephyr with the Bailiwiki channel. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this content, subscribe to keep up with all of our latest videos, and consider supporting us on Patreon. Not only do you support the channel, but you also gain access to all the modular systems and scenes that we've ever made, including this Dwarven battle map right here. Once again, this has been Zephyr. Thanks so much for watching, happy gaming, and have a good one.